So when you say that anybody who's been in love you talk to and describes it the same way, you think that they're supposed to say the same thing, but what if they're saying the same thing because it is the explanation of the same thing?
Because you can tell by how they say it.
Which is what?
They say it in a robot voice.
I've been caught up and I just flat out told the truth. And they're just like, people like are shocked. They're just like, oh. I had so many people inquiring for me to do work for them because they were seeing the work I was doing. And I was like, well, I don't actually want to work for anyone else after this. Dude,
No,
like you
fun.
wasted
That's
3
way more
years of
fun.
my
Yeah,
life.
yeah.
Like, you don't even like me. You don't even like what? But I think for him, like, I was a safe place because we were childhood friends and because we did have such a good friendship. Like, we had that bond. I think that, you know, you shouldn't trust anybody, but I think that women at a young age should be wary of men. I think that it's just the world we live in. It actually turned into like quite a bit of a situation because he could not let go of the relationship, which was very confusing to me because I'm like, you don't even want to be in the relationship. He was so gentle about it. He was just like, well, like, are you going to say anything? And I'm like, yeah, so like, you know, he's like, why'd you introduce me to him? And I'm like, well, I thought we were all friends. Like, I don't know. Like, I guess I didn't realize how much either one of them liked me.
Welcome to Unattainable. Glad to have you with us and hope you continue to be a part of our family for the foreseeable future. And if so, please hit that subscribe button. I'm Mohammed Malay here with my incredible co-host, Zach Evans, and our newest guest, Liv Mathis. How are you doing? Hello.
Good.
Introduce yourself, where you're from, what you do, how old you are, so on and so forth.
Okay. I'm Olivia. I am from Atlanta, Georgia, but I've lived in LA quite a while. I'm 20-something years old. And I own a marketing agency called Your Marketing Plug.
Nice. When did you start that?
Last year.
Awesome.
Yes.
How did that all come about?
I was working in corporate cannabis at one of the largest, well, not one of the largest cannabis company in the country. And I was creative directing there and doing all sorts of things at the top of the marketing chain there. And I had so many people inquiring for me to do work for them because they were seeing the work I was doing. And I was like, well, I don't actually want to work for anyone else after this. So I was thinking about leaving my job, basically. That's how it started. And then I was like, well, if I go to another company, I'm also going to hate working for someone there. So why don't I just try to start my own thing?
Mm-hmm. Why did you hate working for someone?
It's not really hate. It's just kind of, I think that it is easier to like what you're doing and feel like you're doing something for a reason when you're doing it for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And it's what you want to do versus someone kind of micromanaging and critiquing everything you do, especially when you're like in a creative lane, like creative directing or marketing.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like your own ideas that take off instead of your own ideas taking off for someone else's company, and you're making this person richer and your salary goes up like once or twice a year. It's just, why not just do it myself?
Right. Is that, I'm assuming that's what you felt like when you were working at your last job.
Yeah.
Okay.
For sure.
And so when you started your business, how's that been going so far? And just explain to the audience, like, what exactly you do.
Okay, cool. So I started a marketing agency called Your Marketing Plug, YMP Agency, here in Los Angeles, California. It is mainly a cannabis-based marketing agency, but we do have some other clients. We have some streetwear clients. We actually have some real estate clients and staging companies. We actually have a wide array of clients, but we focus on cannabis marketing since that's where mine and my partner Dawn's experience comes from.
Mm-hmm.
Dawn kind of handles like the PR, celebrities, that side of marketing, and I do all of like the creative content, social media side. We're fully versed. We do everything you can think of, from billboards, so full advertising, social media, events, even online advertising. And we started this last summer.
Mm-hmm.
She actually left the company before I did. And we kind of had some clients on the side. I was actually still working when I started the company.
Mm-hmm.
And it was funny. I remember really vividly, my boss showed me a photo that I had done for another company and was like, I want our content to look like this, not knowing that it was my work that I was doing on the side. And I kind of just shyly was like, okay, yeah, I can do that. And then in my head, I was like, dude, I need to start my own thing. Like, I'm tired of making money for someone else instead of taking the full profit for myself.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's pretty much how it all came about. And we've been so busy because we're here in March, and 420, the National Weed Day, you know, is in April, and we have clients from here to New York to Miami. So we have events all over the country for 420. And it's been a little difficult to manage, I'm not gonna lie.
Right.
We do have like some employees, but it's mainly just my partner Dawn and I running things since it's so new.
Mm-hmm.
So we've had like some scheduling stuff come up here and there, but other than that, I think, you know, we're handling it really well. We've expanded really fast. Like I said, we have clients in multiple cities, not just Los Angeles. So it's been a journey. Like, it's a little hard.
Yeah,
for sure.
I mean, especially if only there's two of you, and then you've got, you know, 3 different cities in 3 different states. How are you going to manage being on top of all of that?
Yeah, that is something we're learning, and we're having some growing pains with that right now. Actually, literally today we had a photo shoot in New York, and I was like, oh, did like someone take the merch? And then we're like, no one took the merch. And it's just like something that, you know, it's like these little things, but it's cool because we get to learn from it, and we get to be more prepared and better for the next time. And I just hope if we keep going in the direction we're going, like, everything's going to be peachy.
Well, it sounds like, because the hardest part, in my opinion, of any business is getting the clients, getting people to take out their wallet and give you the money. Once you have that, the managing side is challenging, but it's like, okay, that's like doable. You just, like we have to like hire someone for this. We have to like put the pieces, but like, sounds like you guys got the hard part down. So
yeah, that's where we're at now for sure. And then it's also like, who do we hire? Because we've tried hiring a couple of people, but it's such a like meticulous thing because obviously cannabis isn't federally legal. So there's like a lot of things that you can't say on social media. And then like someone's posting the wrong caption and they say for sale or deals or something like that. And then Instagram gets reported. And then like, we just need someone who like understands that. But yeah, I mean, other than that, I think for sure the hard part is getting clients. But I would say after our first 5 clients, I was like, okay, shit, like this is actually going to work. You know, I was making 2 times more than I was at my job. And I was like, wow, like this happened so fast. You know, that happened within 6 months. And now my partner, Dawn, I looked at her and I was like, you're going to be able to quit your job. And now she's quitting her job. So it's like, it's pretty, it's going.
That's
sure.
great. You jumped right in.
Yeah.
Were you nervous quitting your job, or are you more excited, or both? Both for sure. And I also, it was a very toxic environment, but I loved my job and I had a great mentor at my job. Not to say like there's no bad blood there, but I was very excited to move forward and work for myself. And the way we left things was kind of awkward, but there was no way for me to like get out of it without just
quitting,
going head first. And just quitting. So
what made it toxic?
It's a corporate company, and the cannabis industry is like a lot of men, and they're in high positions that they probably shouldn't be in. So it's like I'm doing the job of someone who has the title, you know, but then I'm doing it and I'm not getting paid as much as they are. And they get the final say in things because they're a man. And I mean, I know it was targeted like that because they would literally say that. So
they would literally say what?
Like, we only want men at the top of this company, or we only want men in charge at this company.
So you didn't feel like you were going to ever be able to go to the next level because they were never going to give it to you?
I was already at the top. I just wasn't getting credit for what I was doing. And a lot of my job relied on communicating for the owner of the company to certain people in certain departments. and they had toxic communication. So then that like reflected on me, since it was my job to communicate for them, because I had to figure out what this person wants and make it into what the owner wants as well. And I was pretty good at that, and I enjoyed doing that. But then it kind of like the partners switched and things started, like there was a lot of friction, and I was like, this is kind of perfect timing because I've already been doing my own thing for this long, and I know that I can do it now.
Yeah.
So
nice. And then okay, so then you started your business, and obviously me knowing you, I know you kind of were going through some health issues during that time. Was that before you started your company or after? During. Okay.
Yeah. So after COVID, I came down with like autoimmune. I honestly have never like really had health. Thank God I've never had health issues in my life before that. But it was after a COVID infection, I started getting like heart palpitations and just feeling super tired all the time. Which I now know I have a condition called POTS, and a lot of people are getting it after COVID. There's like a bunch of studies on it, a bunch of research. I actually have a doctor out in Palo Alto now, and he was the head of infectious disease at Stanford for 20 years. I genuinely like, wow, this guy's like a rocket scientist. Every time he talks to me, he's so smart, super intelligent guy. And he leads the research on like post-viral conditions, and so it's really being looked into, and there's not much you can do. So I just had to learn to control my nervous system and start doing brain retraining to teach like myself how to get better and how to try to overcome like a chronic autoimmune condition.
What is it specifically that happens?
So when I stand up, not now, I'm like pretty healthy now, but when I'm in a flare-up or whatever, my blood pressure is actually really low, and it will drop upon standing up, and then my heart rate will shoot up. So my blood pressure goes down and my heart rate goes up. And a lot of people faint. I've only fainted a few times, but it's a pretty difficult condition because you can't exercise, you have to eat healthy so you don't cause inflammation, which I kind of already do those things anyway. Except I can't exercise as I would like to now. I can only kind of do like gentle yoga, or can't do anything like high intensity because my heart rate will go. For example, like if I was in a flare up now and I was sitting down and I stood up, my blood pressure would drastically drop and my heart rate would be like 150.
Wow.
Which is just insane. And so when that first started happening, I was like, oh my God, am I dying? Like, you know, why is my heart rate 150? Like I'm literally just standing here.
So it's crazy you say that. This girl that I'm seeing has the same thing.
She has POTS?
And she said she was like, yeah, it's super rare. She'd be like, I'll be like.
It's actually not though. That's the thing. Like, there's like 22 million people with after COVID POTS.
Crazy.
In the US. I don't even know about worldwide. But.
Yeah, she said if she lays down and she stands up, she like can't see for a couple seconds, and then vision kind of comes back. You know?
And the heat can also make you pass out. There's all kinds of weird things that come with it. I mean, it's still being studied, so. But that's just like personally what happened to me. But I ended up going back to South Carolina to stay with my dad and my brother. My brother actually came here and drove me across the country because we didn't know what was going on. And my family knows I'm like ambitious. I'm a go-getter. I'm like they know my personality. So when I was like in my bedridden and just not able to do anything, they were like, they thought I was dying too. They were so worried. So my dad flew out to make sure I was like gonna survive. And then he was like, I have to go back to work. What do you want to do? And I was like, well, I don't want to like, you know, miss out on work or anything. So I'm going to stay here and see if I get better. That didn't happen. My brother flew here and drove me across the country.
Why didn't you just fly?
Because we didn't know like with the heart stuff, you know, we didn't know like if elevation would affect it or anything like that. And at this time, I genuinely was having like out of body anxiety because I thought I had something that was like, I had 2 days to live. Because it happened so suddenly. It's just like one day I was just so unwell. But yeah, he drove me and I stayed with them for about 3 months, and it was at his house that I was so bored. I was just like cooking and cleaning for my dad and brother and just hanging out with them, and I started working on it then. while I was going through those health things. Cause like, wow, if I can't figure out what's going on with my health, I'm going to need to figure something else out for work, because I can't be sitting in an office from 9 to 5 every day with these health issues. So just like started off as plan B and became plan A, I guess.
Wow. And then, so during this time, were you still doing the agency work with Dawn, or was she like picking up most of the work while you were trying to figure out?
No, I was still doing it.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, we were calling clients. I was like bedridden, calling people like, hey, yeah, like we have this $8,000 package. And like Dawn's like, are you okay? I'm like, yeah, I'm good. No worries. Uh-huh. But it was like something to look forward to, because at that time I was so bored. I was just so bored and I was so depressed. And I feel like it almost helped me get better and helped me realize that there's like life after and during chronic illness.
Yeah. So when we met, you were modeling. Obviously, that's why you moved to LA.
Yeah.
And then, so tell us about that. Tell us about your experience from the time. First of all, tell us about your experience when you moved to LA, and then how that all has been, and just the overall your experience with the modeling industry.
Man. Okay. Yeah. So I was like 14 or 15. And I was having a really bad day, and my friend was like, let me pick you up and take you to the mall. And I was like, okay. So we go to the mall. This guy's like following us around the mall.
In South Carolina.
In South Carolina, yeah. So my family moved from Atlanta, Georgia to South Carolina. And I don't mean this to come off in like a hateful way, but I absolutely like do not like South Carolina. The whole state just needs to like not be here
not exist.
Yeah. Like there is nothing and no one of value there besides my family.
I think both the Carolinas, North Carolina and South Carolina.
North Carolina has beautiful mountains.
North Carolina is pretty good.
Like, I wouldn't say pretty good, but you know, like
I mean, it's much better than South Carolina.
There's
for sure.
like 3 okay things there, you know. Yeah. So I was in culture shock when we moved from Atlanta to South Carolina. I was like, everyone here is like very uneducated and just like
racist.
Yeah. Not only that, but like everyone thinks like a woman's purpose there is to like have children. And I'm like, in my head, I'm like a teenager and I'm like, the thought of children like is disgusting.
I'm still a child.
And like, yeah, I'm still a child. And people are like, yeah, you should like start having babies at 17. I'm like, whoa, what? So yeah, when we moved from Atlanta to South Carolina, it was just like over for me. I knew I didn't want to stay in South Carolina. We were walking around the mall. This guy's following us. And I'm like, we got to figure out why this guy's following us. And my friend's like, you should just turn around and say something. So we go into a store so that there's like someone there to see. And I turn around, I'm like, can I help you with something? And he's like, have you ever tried modeling before? And of course we're just like, oh my God, this guy's a freaking creep. Like, he's like, have you ever tried modeling before? We're like 14. And we're like, no, of course not. And then he's like, well, I know, like, I don't mean to scare you or anything, but I just want to give you my card. And I'm like, I took it and I go home and I tell my dad. My dad, by the way, is like my best friend. He was so supportive of the whole thing, even though I thought it like I was going to get kidnapped. My dad looked into it and he was like, hey, like, I think this is a real thing. And I know you like don't want to be in South Carolina. And I know you like feel like you just want to do something with your life. I think you should call them. I think we should call them. So we did. My dad called them. They're like, yeah, we're having this showcase in Orlando, Florida. And a showcase is basically where you walk with a number on you, and agencies from around the world sit there and they give you callbacks. So you like walk down a runway and you have a number. So we go to that. My dad takes me, drives me all the way to Orlando. I got like 12 out of 15 callbacks, I think. And I instantly signed with a manager, signed with an agency. And I think I started off like trying to finish school and stay close to home. So we started going to like Charlotte, Charleston, Atlanta for all these modeling gigs. But then when I was 17, my dad was like, I think you should just fully like book it. You know, you have all these agencies in different places. I think you should like get out of here, you know? And my agency here in LA flew me here, put me up in an apartment. And at first I was like, wow, like I'm a celebrity. I can't believe these people are flying me out. I'm going to live in Hollywood, all this stuff. First of all, I pull up to a model apartment in Sherman Oaks. So I'm like, this is LA. And I start looking around. I'm like, okay, cool, whatever. Then I walk in. It's like a studio with 3 bunk beds in 1 bathroom. There's like 6 girls in there. I'm like, okay.
Oh, they didn't tell you that before?
No, they're like, yeah, we're going to get you an apartment. We're going to pay for your plane ticket. And I'm like, wow, this is lit. And then I get there and I'm like, so do we all share the same bathroom? There's like 6 of us. Someone's sleeping on a futon. It was cool. It was, it built character for sure. But yeah, I started going to castings in LA, and honestly, I was very lucky. My modeling career like instantly kind of took off. I started modeling for like Vogue, Dior, Marc Jacobs. I was short for a model. I was 5'8". So it was challenging for me at times because clients would be like, oh, you're not tall enough. I could never do runway, which I think is funny now because like, you know, these influencers who are like 5'2" are doing runway.
Right.
But yeah, at the time they were still trying to like hold on to that like supermodel era of the 90s. So, but it was really cool. And then, you know, I got signed in New York, Miami, everywhere else as well. So I traveled around. I lived everywhere that, you know, there's like a major city basically in the US. And it was a great experience. Like I would not change it for anything. It was pretty cool. Also, by the way, like during this time, I had to support myself. So if I wasn't modeling, I would have to get all these side jobs. So it was like cater waitering. I worked at a gym. I don't even know. I did dog walking. I did house sitting. I worked as a production assistant. I was a personal assistant. I had all these odd jobs on the side because sometimes it would slow down, or sometimes you would owe your agency money from staying in the modeling apartment, and you'd have to pay for like your plane tickets and pay them back for things, or like a driver. So yeah, I think at one point I was in like $20,000 debt to my agency, and I was like, dude, I better fucking book something because I can't pay this. And I did. It happened, you know, but it was scary because you're like a teenager and you're like, oh my God, I'm $20,000 in debt. Like I'm 17. But yeah, it was a cool experience. I think when I started to get around the age of like 22, 23, I was seeing all these girls that were a few years older than me that were still trying to model, and it just kind of wasn't really working out for them, and they didn't have any other experience. And granted, I had all these side hustle experiences, but like that's not going to pay your bills for life, you know? So I just started trimming weed on the side. My friends were like, hey, like you get $200 per pound you trim. And I'm like, oh, how hard could it be? It's actually pretty hard. And I started doing that on the side. And then I started working in the grow and like learning about the plant. Fast forward, I like did that for 2 years on the side. And then I was like, I think I want to like fully like pause on modeling, and like I'll take direct bookings, but I don't want to be like going to castings every day and stuff like that. I want to fully pause on that and kind of learn about cannabis, because I saw how many people were making so much money in that industry. And it was something that, you know, I had this experience in and I didn't mind it at all. You know, it was actually really fascinating to me. So I kind of dove headfirst in and just was like, I'll just get a bud tender job. So I started off as a bud tender at the same place that I started off as a bud tender. I ended up becoming the marketing director. And then I ended up becoming the head of purchasing. So I was purchasing for their chain of stores, doing that. And then that is how the other company I worked for found me, because they were looking at that company and was like, find out who's doing that marketing and that stuff. And then I got an offer from them and I went corporate, and I kind of like climbed that ladder for like the last 5 years. And that was the end of modeling. You know, I just had a shoot yesterday for like a hair company. So I definitely still will do it if there's like a direct booking, but I'm like, I'm not going to be 30 years old, like going to castings. I'm just not.
I've always wanted, so the first model I did when I was maybe like 25 or something, I remember she had a shoot in the OC, and it was kind of like sketchy. Like she was like, I don't know, like they kind of DM'd me, like I don't really know what this is. So I like went with her to make sure it was like all legit, and it was an 8-hour shoot. And I remember she got there and it was like, okay, put on these clothes, shot, boom, put on these clothes, same 5 poses again, put on these. And I just remember thinking like, is this enjoyable? No. like to me, I'm literally like sitting on my phone like, this looks like a nightmare.
You actually stayed for the shoot?
Yeah, I was in the OC. Experience. I guess I could have like gone like, you know, no, whatever.
It's good. I think any guy that dates a model should have to stay through at least one shoot, especially if it's e-com, because e-com is the you also have like maybe 4 hours to shoot, so you're shooting like 500 outfits in 4 hours.
It was just go.
Yeah, and it's people don't realize how like, well, first of all, there's times when it can be like demeaning, you know, they're like, oh, the clothes don't fit you, ugh, you know, or something like that, or like, oh, you have a breakout today, like why didn't you tell us? And it's like, dude, I don't know. I'm like,
this shoot was like a military drill. It was
like,
clothes on, go.
It can be like that.
Fucking like, it was crazy.
Yeah, it can be like that. And then they also they don't want to pay you overtime, so they're gonna rush the shoot rather than be like, oh, like take your time, don't, you know. And then also a lot of the times you're also not allowed to eat. That's like another thing that was unspoken. You know, we don't really talk about it, but it's like there are literally shoots that there would be a sign that was like, models, please do not touch the food. I can't make this up. I think I literally still have a picture of one that I took. But, you know, so when a company would like pay for your lunch, well, first of all, they would usually like order you a salad without even asking what you wanted. But if a company would pay for your lunch, you'd be like, oh my God, like, thank you. You'd just be so grateful to be able to eat in this 8-hour day.
It's like 3 raisins inside.
Yeah, no, literally. Or they'd have separate food. They'd like cater for everyone else. And then it would be like models, and it'd be like granola bars, bananas, and water. And you're like, oh, like, what about the food over there?
You're like, no, don't touch the food over there.
No,
that's
absolutely.
For the hungry people. Yeah, not for you.
I don't even know if I could say this, but one time I was standing in for Jennifer Lawrence on a shoot for Dior, and they had like Costco catering. And by catering, I mean granola bars and fruit and like random like stuff and like some type of like off-brand coffee on our side. And then on her side, for her and like her team, they had Starbucks and like all the good stuff. And
like Whole Foods
she
shit.
Brought me a Starbucks coffee. She literally was like, because I was like, oh, the coffee's so gross. And I guess she overheard me, and she brought me a Starbucks coffee. And I was like, you're the nicest person I've ever met in my life. Like, I was like in shock. But that was just like a normal day of modeling, to be honest. You kind of just normalize those things.
Yeah.
I have 2 other like really good friends, Ollie and Minji, and Minji's still like heavily modeling. She's like one of the main models for Nike. And I was with them the other day, and we were talking about the things we normalized that were just not okay in like modeling. And I'd be like, yeah, sometimes like even today, I don't really care about modeling anymore, but sometimes I'll look in the mirror, I'm like, oh my God, like I'm so bloated or I'm so fat. And like, obviously we know I'm not, you know? So, yeah. But it's like those things stay with you for almost forever. Cause I was modeling for like 8 to 10 years. So it's like still to this day, I see things and I'm just, or if I have a breakout, I freak out and I'm like, wait, this actually doesn't matter because like I'm not doing anything that requires me to not have a breakout. But it's just crazy how things stay with you from that time.
Yeah.
But that's what I'm like curious about. Like, is it fun? Because so many girls want to be model. Is it fun, or is it like the status of like being like, I'm a model. Look how hot I am. They chose me over all the ugly girls because I'm hotter. You know what I mean? It's like the status.
I would
like,
say a little bit of both, to be honest. Like, I remember like when I first came to LA, I might have been when I first met you, but we pulled up to like this place called Supper Club, and it was 50 Cent's birthday. And I was like 17 in the middle of like a Hollywood nightclub, and it was 50 Cent's birthday party. And I was like, oh my God, I've made it. I had like $2 in my bank account. And I'm like, I've literally made it. I'm at 50 Cent's birthday party and I'm 17. I remember posting it on Instagram, and all the girls from back home were commenting on it like, this is so trashy. Like, you're in a nightclub and you're only 17 and like all this stuff. And
you're jealous.
Yeah, I remember feeling like, oh, haters, like you're so jealous that I'm like a hot model now. And it's like, the reality was I literally had like $2 to my name, and I was living in an apartment with 6 other girls, like, and we were basically fighting over jobs. Like, we were all going to the same castings, you know? I'm like, is someone going to put Nair in my shampoo? Or like, it's something to think about. But I would say that it's a little bit of both. I honestly, there are times that I did have fun. And, you know, some of my lifelong friends I met modeling. Like, I met during that time of my life, or I met through a photo shoot. my hair girl, actually, I just saw her yesterday. She's been doing my hair since I was 15, and I lived in Atlanta because I started modeling there. And she also moved to LA. So she's done my hair these whole, like, every year since I was 15.
Crazy.
In Atlanta and Los Angeles. And she's like, you know, that's someone that I've known for so long. I feel like there's just so many people that are a part of my life that I can't imagine not having in my life that I met through modeling. So that part of it is fun. And when you get to shoot with friends, or if it's like, I think the most fun I've had is on test shoots, which is like you kind of get the opportunity to actually shoot things that you want to shoot rather than e-com, which is the least fun job. And then even some of the bigger campaigns are fun if it's not too, you know, like if it's not December and you're shooting swimwear, or it's not summer and you're shooting fur. But I think it's a little bit of both. Looking back on it, I'm not afraid to admit that, like, you kind of get this thing in your head that you're like, wow, I was chosen to be the face of whatever, you know. Yeah. It's like, it's actually not that glamorous.
When you started going into cannabis, what did your family how did your family react?
They kind of like didn't really care.
Oh, it didn't.
I'm like super close to my dad, and he is like pretty accepting of like anything I want, and supportive also of anything I want to do that he thinks is gonna either bring me happiness or help him retire early. So he's like, oh, cannabis, like, yeah, there's money in that, right? Cool, like go for it, you know. I remember him like bringing it up and thinking it's weird. I remember when I started, because I used to smoke it too. Now I don't consume cannabis for the most part, but I remember him being like, oh, like, please just don't become a pothead or something like that, you know. But he wasn't very like, he's a pretty open-minded guy. Yeah, he wasn't very judgmental, and he knows that like I'm responsible for the most part, so he kind of just trusts like whatever I'm up to or doing. I think he was shocked for sure. He's like, what do you mean you want to quit modeling and start working in cannabis? I literally sent you to LA.
Drugs.
Yeah, like I sent you to LA to become a famous model, and now you're selling weed. Are you shitting me?
How come you didn't start doing OnlyFans?
I just personally don't like see myself in that light. Like, I didn't want that for myself. It's not like I fully support whatever women want to do. Like, I support women's rights and wrongs, and I will
rights and wrongs.
Yeah, no, literally, I will defend a woman till the day I die. Like, I don't care what she did. I don't care. But it just wasn't for me. Like, I am just not like a hypersexual person, so I feel like it would make me depressed, and it would also I have a really hard time like being intimate or sexual with someone that I'm not like completely in love with, to be honest. Like, I don't even have like one night stands. I don't even have, that's just like not, I'm just not comfortable, you know. But I know a lot of people that did, and they are like rich off OnlyFans, so I'm like, good for you, but it's just not something I think I could do.
You said you would defend a woman regardless of what they did. Why is that?
That was kind of a joke, but like, obviously there's like some lines there, but
some lines.
I love women. Like, I'm a girl's girl. The greatest people I've ever known in my life are my girlfriends. It's just a totally different relationship than with a man. Like, we're just different, you know. Like, men and women are different, and I feel like the relationships that I hold with women are so deep and pure that I just always like, I'm gonna always have a girl's back no matter what. You know,
it's ironic because like you're very close to your dad. Obviously you have a brother, and I know you have a sister, and I have always known you to kind of be a feminist in a way, you know?
Yeah.
But I never knew like what made you feel that way. Like, what kind of triggered it, I guess.
I think the fact that I do have great men in my life is what made me feel that way, because I see how they act and how they respond and how they've treated me. Like, some girl was telling me the other day, like her dad like yelled at her and would throw things at her. And I'm like, I can't even remember in my mind like one time that my dad ever
raised his voice. Yeah.
No. And my brother the same. Like they both have like, I think the fact that they also don't trust men is what made me like kind of, you know, like there's no dad or brother in the world that I know that's like wants their sister or their daughter like around a room full of men. You know, like most dads are like protective of their daughters, and it's like, well, who are you protecting your daughter from? And he's like, men. And it's like, you know what I mean? Like it's like, but I there are some great men and I love men. I think they're cool, but I just think that they're not necessary for a woman to succeed. You don't need a man. And I think like in this time period, it's really important to push women to like have careers and do the things they want to do rather than like breed children and like clean up a house all day long. If that's what you want to do, great, cool, good for you. But I think that a lot of women fall into that lifestyle because of society and like the norms and things that are pushed on them from a very young age. Because I remember moving to South Carolina and like even my teachers would be like, oh, like wait till you grow up and have kids. And I'm like, I'm 12. Like, you know, it was just like, it's a very out of the box thing to like think about and realize. But I think that my close relationships with the men in my life is what drive me to be, because I know it's possible. I know it's possible for men to be like this good of a person. But then I was a model. I've been in these situations where like, I know my drink was probably roofied. I know like all these things that I've seen men do throughout the years that just make me, you know, more, trying to think of the right word, that make me more hesitant to like be trusting of them and like push for people to be like, yeah, women should trust men. It's a little like hard to say that, you know, like if you had a daughter, do you think you would tell her like you should fully trust like men?
I think I would tell her that she shouldn't trust anyone.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
I don't think gender has anything to do with trust, because I think anybody is capable of stabbing you in the back regardless of their gender.
For sure. But not anybody is capable of like murdering and raping you. Like most of the time, if you look at statistics, it's not women who like do that to women, you know?
And if it was like a girl raping a dude, the guy would probably be okay with it. He'd be like, no. All right, that was kind of fun.
I mean, maybe, I don't know for sure, but I don't think that's okay either, you know? Like there's a lot of that.
Well, actually, that's not true. There's
Wait, does that happen? I was kind of joking.
No, for sure.
A girl
like,
raping a guy?
Yeah, for sure. Girls like roofie men and rob them and stuff like that. Oh, that happens often in New York.
Yeah, I thought you meant
that's like a big thing.
Like, never mind. I
no, like physically. Yeah. But that does happen. You know?
Girl robbed me. She didn't even roofie me. Yeah.
Wait, what do you mean?
She stole $175 and my Dave & Buster's gift card or a power card.
Oh my God. How did that happen? Like, what was the situation?
I mean, I just went to sleep. Like we like hooked up. I went to sleep, woke up in the morning.
And it was gone.
And because at first, like my money was gone. But you're thinking, oh, did I spend that at some point? And then I saw my Dave & Buster's power card was gone. And I was really close to enough points for the remote control car, so I was like really upset about it.
What is the reason that someone would take a Dave & Buster's? Like, is that where you guys went on a date? Like, why would she take that? That's such a
It's probably like, I mean, I thought she would take like my credit cards, but probably you'd get caught with that. Yeah. But like, maybe she took the money. What else can I steal? Driver's license doesn't do anything for me. Okay, well, I could use the points. You know, I could get like a stuffed animal or something. I don't know.
Oh my God.
I don't understand girl brains. I don't understand
it. For sure agree with Mo. I think that, you know, you shouldn't trust anybody, but I think that women at a young age should be wary of men. I think that it's just the world we live in. Like, it's just reality. And, but that's not to say that young men shouldn't be wary of women. They should like also, you know, I think that.
Yeah, but you mentioned something with regards to like, you know, the murder rate. I think I understand what you're saying, but that's within the heterosexual relationships. But actually, lesbians have the highest rate of domestic violence in comparison to other genders. So it's lesbians first, and then heterosexuals, and then gay men. So you know, I think the perception that you have with regards to, you know, not being able to trust men, obviously stems from being a part of an environment where, you know, the men sort of have taken advantage of the state that the status that they have, you know, kind of like, you know, in your work environment, use you in order to get the credit or whatever. So then in that sense, you're like, I can't trust these people. And I'm assuming a part of it also comes from the relationships that you had in the past that made you feel like, you know, somebody cheated on you, or somebody, you know, you shouldn't have trusted with, you know, your heart and your love, and they just, you know, broke that trust. So gave you that, you know, perception.
Yeah, I think sorry, when I was talking about statistics, I meant like not in relationships, like just in general, like men versus women. Like I'm not sure of like the relationship statistics, but I know like basis, you know, like men versus women. Like women aren't usually like, I wouldn't be afraid if I'm like in an elevator with a woman for the most part. Like
sure,
at 3 a.m.
And I think that fear typically comes from the fact that men are, you know, physically stronger than women. So, you know, it's naturally normal to feel like, hey, as a beautiful woman in LA, where you could be next to a guy that, you know, alone with him somewhere in a very tight space, it's like I need to be aware at all times. And I think that's just it's unfortunate to feel that way. But, you know, girls get catcalls all the time. And I think that kind of makes people feel like, okay, I don't know what this person is going to do to me, and I don't know if I'm going to be able to like defend myself if something does happen.
For sure.
You know?
There's times when I've been in the elevator with like a 5'5" man that's like skinny, that I'm like, it's just uncomfortable, because you know what men are capable of, because not only like I've personally never like experienced that, thank God, but it's just something that I've seen happen to my friends. Like, you know, one of like a friend of a friend was roofied at an after party and dropped off dead at the hospital a couple of years ago. So these are things that I literally see, and things that, you know, I've kind of like things that I've seen happen around me, or that have been around me for like a long time. I can't say if it would stem from any of my past relationships. I've only been cheated on once, and the guy was gay. He was hooking up with men. Yeah. So I was in a relationship for 3 years. Me about to drop my lore. I was in a relationship for 3 years with someone that I actually knew from my childhood. We grew up together. And I found out that he was seeing men behind my back. So I never really looked at it as like, oh, he cheated on me and he broke my heart. I was like, oh, wow. Like, I feel sorry for him that he feels like he has to hide this, and he like, you know, can't be himself. Like, I didn't think it was a me thing at all. I was just like, you know.
So it was almost better from your like emotional standpoint, as opposed to him like cheating on you with a girl.
I wouldn't say better. I was still really like, I mean, it's kind of more of a mind fuck, because you're just like, there's so many things you go through. But the end emotion, because I went through a lot, and the end emotion, and he also kept lying throughout the whole process. So this is a little bit crazy, but I made a fake account on said dating app, and I pretended to be someone else, and like even got a fake phone number, texted him from the fake phone number, like made sure 100% that he was
gay.
Like, I mean, I didn't know what else to do, because it would be like, okay, here's the thing. I would catch little things, like little strays, and he'd be like, oh, like, you know, you don't know how hard it is for me. I had a porn addiction, and during my porn addiction, I became attracted to weird things because I was alone as a child, or this happened to me as a child. And so I would just keep believing him. And I'm like a really understanding person. Like, you know me. I kind of like just accept people as they are. Like, I'm not someone who is going to judge you for almost anything besides like who you are as a person. So I was like, okay, that makes sense. Like, I understand. Sure. You know, and then something else would come up. It was like, he was hanging out with this guy that he didn't know that he met on the internet, and they were both pilots, but the guy was like openly gay. And I'm like, okay, well, that's not weird. A straight man, I think that should be more normalized. Straight men hanging out with gay men. Like, if you're friends with him, like, cool, whatever. Like, I didn't think anything of it. Then he started like disappearing in the night and going to that guy's house and like just weird. And I was like, okay, like at this point, this is not. And then he was having behavioral things. Like, he was really angry all the time and he would like snap on things. And I'm like, there's something going on inside of you that is causing you to act like this, and I think I know what it is. But he would just lie. So I ended up making the fake account. I had fake photos, fake phone number, everything. And then when he pulled up to meet the person, it was me instead.
What the fuck? That's crazy.
And I was like, I cannot believe that you lied to me about all this. And the questions I was asking on the text message was like, there's no way you can lie about it. Like, I was like, have you done this before? And he's like, yeah. And I'm like, he was going to gay sex parties in LA. Like, he knew he was texting this person, which was me, all this like spilling the tea about everything he was doing and everything he's done in the past. And so he pulls up and it's me, and he's like horrified, which like now I feel bad that I did that to him a little bit, but I'm also like, dude,
no,
like you
fun.
wasted
That's
3 years of my life.
Yeah.
Like, you don't even like me. You don't even like what? But I think for him, like, I was a safe place because we were childhood friends and because we did have such a good friendship. Like, we had that bond. So for him, like, I was kind of the perfect cover up. And now it's even more crazy. He's dating another woman and they've been together for like 2 years. And it's like, it's not my place to insert myself in that and let her know. I wish I could, but like, that journey for me has ended, and like, his karma is his own, but that was probably like my craziest.
Okay, hold on.
My
mind. We're not done with this story.
My mind is absolutely.
Me trying to just move on.
My mind is blown right now. I didn't know this. Okay, hold on. I need to like frame my thought process here. Okay. So 3 years, you guys are having sex.
Yeah.
Okay. So he's so he's sexually able to perform.
Yeah.
Fine with you.
So actually, I did want to say that maybe he is bisexual.
Okay.
But I think that there is a point where there's so much self-hatred for like what you are and who you are that maybe you're not bisexual, you are gay, and you just don't want to be that so badly, because the way he would act and the things he would say and the things he would do and the things I would catch him doing weren't giving bisexual, because I'm bisexual. I don't know if you knew that. Yeah. I'm bisexual.
Yeah. And
it just wasn't that. It was like full blown, like he wasn't texting other women at all. He wasn't, if you're a cheater, you're probably going to cheat with men and women if you're bisexual, but that wasn't the case. So
okay, so I think the part of a story is missing here in between from like him going to the guy's house to you making an account, because regardless of what intuition a woman has, that's a big fucking leap to be like, this guy's hanging out with some gay guy, and then like at no point my wife is going to be like, oh, you went hang out with this gay guy, like you might be gay. Like, I just don't think that. So there's like something in between.
There was a lot happening.
Okay,
I kind of blacked out for some of it, but I trying to remember, like, it was me finding the like porn on his phone.
Okay.
And then
so he had gay porn.
He had yes. And he had accounts on Tammy, which is like a widely known
I don't know. I've never heard of that one. I've heard of
like
Grindr.
It's like Grindr, but women also use it. I feel like Grindr is kind of like for gay men, but lesbians and bisexual people use Tammy. I don't know how to say it.
Okay.
So yeah, I had found those things, and then I had found in his, oh my God, I keep remembering things. Okay. In his email, he was responding to Craigslist ads for said things, sexual things, like it was just all these things. And he would tell me like, oh, I'm only responding to that, like, but I'm not doing it. Mm-hmm. It was just like a cycle of him saying it was a porn addiction rather than what it actually was, which was like him infidelity and his sexuality. And he would deny that he's attracted to men. He would deny that he's attracted to trans women. He would deny that he's like attracted to anyone but women. Mm-hmm. So I believed, you know what I mean? Sure. Like you want to give someone the benefit of the doubt, especially because I knew him since we were kids. Like I've literally known the guy since I was like 13 years old.
Right. You're like, why would he lie to me?
Yeah, I'm like, and it's just not something I expected, especially knowing him so long too, knowing his family, knowing his mom, him knowing my family. He grew up around my family as well. So I just didn't know that someone that's been in that position with you in life would want to deceive you so badly. You know, it's like a betrayal that's, I think you said earlier, like it was better than cheating with women. It was like more like a more painful betrayal because of that. Yeah. But I will say that maybe that's why I viewed it as like not a me thing, because it wasn't like, I was a great partner. During the pandemic, he had lost his job. He was a pilot and he lost his job. I fully supported him financially. I let him stay with me until the point where I was like, catching on to things. I was like, you need to find your own place. We still continued the relationship after that until I like actually found out, but I was like a great partner to him. So I knew that it wasn't me.
Right. Had he come to you and said, hey, look, I think I'm bi, or, whatever, like start off with I'm bi, would you have continued the relationship?
Well, no, because of the infidelity. But
what had he come to you before that and said, hey, I'm bi?
Before the infidelity and said, I'm bi. I mean, yeah, like if you're good to me, you're good to me. You know what I mean? Like if you're gonna treat would you have been okay with him having sexual relationships with other men while you guys were together? Okay, no. So that's just not okay. No, yeah,
it doesn't work the other way around.
Yeah, I'm like, well,
because dudes would be like, yeah, who cares,
Yeah, but I don't know, because even like. There was times where I was like, do you want to be in an open relationship? And he was like, no. Like, you better not see anyone else. Like, And
but would you be in an open relationship?
Yeah, I would.
Okay, so then if he said, hey, you could go be with other women and I'll go be with other men, would you be okay with that type of open relationship?
I think had it started off like that, maybe. But the fact that it didn't start off like that, I would never open up to that, like, in the future. You know what I mean? Because when it starts off like that, you know what to expect, and you know that person's being honest with you, and there's nothing to like look over your shoulder for, really. So it's like you feel more secure, and this person's not lying to you.
Right.
Do I prefer to be in an open relationship? I don't know. I'm not, but am I open to the idea of it? Yeah, I would be. If it works for both of us.
Right. Of course. Okay, so you pull up. Okay, so you find out that, or you have your suspicions. You make your account, and he pulls up. What is his reaction? What does he say?
He drove away. He left.
He just ran away. Okay.
He just ran away.
Oh, so you saw him? He was in the car still.
Yeah, he was.
Oh, that'd been so much better if he like walks up and
no, because I was like, meet me in this parking lot, because he was doing stuff like that. I would be at work and he would be meeting people and hooking up with them in the backseat of their car,
crazy,
while I was like working all day and like paying his bills. So
So he runs away, and then what happens?
I just I honestly...
Did you hit him up from the account that you had made and be like, why did you leave?
That's a really good idea, but no, I ended up blocking him on everything. And it actually turned into like quite a bit of a situation because he could not let go of the relationship, which was very confusing to me because I'm like, you don't even want to be in the relationship. You don't like... He was very attached to me, or I think maybe the idea of me. He would not let go. I changed my number like 5 times. He would always somehow get my new number. He finally, obviously, he met this new person that he's with, and he like, thank God, moved on. But for like 2 years after we broke up, he would not let me go. And I ended up seeing someone new, and he would have to deal with it because he would message him. He would start, he'd be like, I'm going to like fuck up anybody that you're with. And I'm like, dude, just be you. Like, it's okay. It's what year was this? It's like 2023. I'm like, or 2022, you know, be you. Like, you're holding on to like all this anger and resentment for me because you can't be who you truly want to be. And it's unfair to me because I'm trying to move on with my life and forget that this ever happened. And I'm just reminded of it constantly by him like texting me, calling me. I mean, there's times where he would call from no caller ID like 200 times. I would have to turn my phone off. And I changed my number so many times. It was just like, I also had to like rent a different apartment than my apartment because he would be outside waiting for me. I remember like posting on my story, like moving day, like pretending to move out of my apartment because he would be like waiting for me when I got home at my apartment. So yeah, then it kind of turned into like stalking and harassment because I did just like after that, and I like knew for sure, I blocked him on everything. I never said another word. I didn't cuss him out. I didn't like
cold turkey, just like
cold turkey, blocked him on everything. I did reach out to his mom and his best friend to let them know that like I didn't think he was in a good mental space and that I think he needs help. Because I genuinely like, this is someone I grew up with. I was actually concerned about him, you know, because of the behaviors that he was showing me. But that was it. After I reached out to his mom and his best friend, I never said another word. And, you know, the harassment would continue and I would just text back. Sometimes like I would have enough and I would text back and be like, you need to get your shit together. I'm going to call the cops or whatever. But yeah, it's been years and nothing. I haven't heard anything.
I think I know why you don't trust men. I think
well, I felt that way
out.
before. I for sure felt that way before.
Okay.
And I mean, I do. Like, I trust you. Like, I'm sitting in a room with you guys. It's fine. But
well,
like,
I don't know why you trust him. You just met him.
Well, because he knows you and I know you. And I know you would never put me in that situation.
Of course, that's the reason.
Yeah, he has a nice smile. But yeah, like, but if I didn't know you and I didn't know you and we're like, you walk by me on the street at 3 a.m., like I'm going to grip like whatever I have in my purse to defend myself. Yeah. Like that's just the world we live in.
No, I wouldn't be too scared of Mo. He has skinny little arms. Yeah. I don't think he could do anything.
That's crazy. Okay.
Yeah, there's a lot. Happen there.
So do you think that weed should be legal federally?
For marijuana?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I was like,
what did I say?
I don't know. We were on a totally different topic. So I was like, do you mean? Okay. Yeah, I do.
Why is
However, well, because cannabis is used medicinally. I think that it can help people medicinally. And like, I've actually grown the plant and seen like the compounds that make it up. Like you have receptors in your brain for it to help you heal or use versus these chemicals and these other medicine that we're putting in our body that is unnatural. If alcohol is federally legal, I really don't know how cannabis isn't. You know, I've never seen people like drive high and kill someone. I've never seen people end up like, I know that people can get too high for sure, but I've never seen people die. But my granddad actually died of liver failure from being an alcoholic. So I know what alcohol can do to you. And I feel like if people are able to drink, why can't we federally legalize this plant that it should be controlled for sure, but I think it can help a lot of people. It helps cancer patients. It helps people. There's so many studies on it helping joint pain and arthritis and just all kinds of things that we don't really have a cure for. So I think it should be federally legal. I do think it, you know, should be controlled. I don't think you should drive high. I don't think, you know, I think it's better than alcohol. It's a better option for a lot of people. But I think that because of its benefits to actually medicinally help people, that's like my stance on it, why I think it should be.
And presumably you don't think that other drugs should be legalized?
No. Okay. I mean, well, which ones particularly?
Oh, man. Whatever you say you think you should or shouldn't. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, No, I don't think like we should legalize crack.
Right.
You're asking.
What about coke?
No.
Molly?
No.
Mushrooms.
Ecstasy?
Mushrooms have medicinal benefits.
Interesting.
Yeah. Did you know that this is not like magic mushrooms, but lion's mane is being studied for dementia and Alzheimer's, and it effectively prevents those diseases and helps reconnect neurons in your brain to reverse those diseases. Yeah. So I think mushrooms are medicinal. Again, it's like things that should be controlled. You know what I mean? We don't want people out here like doing shrooms or smoking weed for the first time, like freaking out and like going to the ER. I think it's things that should be talked about and like controlled. But yeah, as far as like Molly, cocaine, all things that are like damaging to you, probably not.
What is the wildest thing you've ever done? Aside from I feel like that is the wildest thing you've ever done, because that's
pretty
just
wild,
like, that's pretty crazy.
I had like
I think because your life is fairly insane. Just like moving to LA, just it's crazy. Like everything you've gotten into is, and the interesting part of it is you've gotten out on the better end.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I mean, for me, I had like a pretty rough upbringing. My family was like very poor, and that is something that creates boredom. Yeah. So me and my siblings would do a lot of crazy things when we were younger, you know, and then it moves into life where you're like becoming your own person. Because I moved out like at a very young age. I moved out of my home when I was 16 and started raising myself, paying my own phone bill, paying for all my own food, everything. You know, I was like fully dependent and on my own. So I genuinely feel like I'm 85 years old. Like I did everything at such a young age that now I'm like so boring. I still like to go out with my friends and have fun, but it's not something that I need, you know? So as far as like the craziest thing I've ever done, it's like, how deep do we want to go into my
as deep as you
my
like?
backstory?
Yeah, go for it.
I can't even think off the top of my head. There's a lot of crazy stuff that I've done. I feel like I've lived 9 lives. Maybe give me like a subject.
I mean, you talked about the relationship part of it, and could be your friendships, the modeling part. I don't know if there was anything, because I feel like there was during the time when you were modeling.
That was crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, just kind of like what we talked about, how, you know, like I definitely had like quite a few disorders, especially like eating disorders and stuff like that. And I would get like really unwell from like shooting all day in the hot sun and not eating anything and stuff like that. Like it affects your mentality. There's nothing I did that's like, you know, super like worth talking about. It's just like, that's like hard. But friendships is an easy one for me, because I am like very close to all my friends. Like if I'm just not your friend anymore, I'm just not your friend. There's just no drama. I'm just like I said, like when I cut off my relationship, I'm like a very cold turkey person. Like once I've had it up to here with your shit, like you will not hear from me again. Yeah. It's never like a knockdown, drag out argument. It's just like, cool, wish you the best. Bye. You know, we know people that, you know, are common denominators in our life that I used to be friends with, and it was never like a knockdown, drag out thing. It was like, hey, move out of my apartment and don't ever talk to me again. That was it.
Yeah, I still have no idea what happened, but
yeah, I mean, I don't really want to speak on that. It was just kind of like a lot of like narcissism and like inconsideration. My dog was locked in the bathroom at one point, and that was like my final straw.
Yeah, I know you love your dog. Yeah, or loved.
You know. No, she's alive.
Is she?
Yeah. Oh. Wow. She's 7.
Is she 7?
Yeah.
Damn, that's crazy. I feel like it's been so much longer.
She's only 7. I wish she was like 2 again, but yeah, I'm not really a type of person that likes to go back and forth. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I feel like if you just know someone's not meant to be in your life, it's like, why am I going to argue about that?
Yeah.
I love going back and forth.
Wait, what's your sign?
Pisces.
I don't know too many Pisces.
We're the best, yeah.
Okay, what are you?
Virgo.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Okay. I know some Virgos.
Of course you do. The one you ended your friendship with is also a Virgo. I think actually our birthdays are a day apart. No.
Interesting.
Actually, one thing that I thought of is you never got into. I mean, I know you get hit on. Obviously, you used to get hit on a lot too. And how come you never like got into the whole like gold digger sort of lifestyle? Because I feel like you could have.
Define gold digger lifestyle.
You know, getting hit on by rich men who then, you know, would be willing to pay and like take care of you and all that stuff. And I feel like you never really.
I think that there's definitely been times when I've dated older men with money, but it was kind of more of like a relationship than like an agreement.
Right.
I've also had to provide for myself since a young age. So I think I'm just even uncomfortable with like depending on someone else, especially like someone that, you know what I mean? There's like no boundaries with to provide for me. And I also like love working. I genuinely love my job. I've always had like ambition and ideas and things that I wanted to do. So I'm just not a person that's like, oh, I don't want to work and I just want to like, which is fine for the women that do, like, love that for you, go queen. But I just like personally, I love working and I love having this like sense of being and something to do and a purpose. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Do you what's the oldest person you've dated, age difference?
So I was like 19 or 20 dating someone in their like late 30s. That's probably the oldest for sure.
Why did that end?
I was immature. He was actually great. Like he would I was living in Miami at the time. He would fly my friends out. He would take me, and at the time I didn't realize like how nice it was, but he would take me shopping at designer places and I'd be like, I like honestly could care less. I will go to Forever 21. Like, why is this guy taking me here?
Crazy.
Like I didn't really care. And he would buy my friends stuff too. He would give them a budget. He would give me a budget and my friends a budget, and we'd like go on shopping days. He had us all like living in our own house. We had like a personal trainer, like all kinds of stuff. It was like the life. But at the time, like you said, I didn't have like that mentality. So I was just like, wow, I'm having fun and like my friends are here. But then I ended up moving back to LA for my modeling career. He was like, hey, and he like helped me get my apartment. And he was like, hey, I'm going to be in LA on these days and these days. Like, do you think I can stay at the apartment? And I was like, no.
Oh my God. Crazy.
I was like, my friends are here. I'm going to have friends in town. And like I was kind of shocked when he like ended it. Cause I had a credit card. I had a credit card in his name and it was like, for emergencies. And so I went to go use the credit card and it got declined and it was reported as stolen. And that was like kind of how I found out that he like broke up with me. He never said like, he was just like, cool, yeah, like no worries, I'll just get a hotel. He never said like, we're done, we're over, nothing. He was just like, he was kind of like me. He was just very nonchalant, like, cool, yeah, whatever. And then the credit card's declined, it's reported as stolen. And I'm like, hey, like my credit card's not working. He's like, oh yeah, can you return that? And I'm like, huh? But yeah, that was like kind of that was like one of my experiences like that.
So he asked your permission to stay in his apartment.
Well, it was mine because it was in my name and I was paying the rent. But
you were paying the rent.
I was so young, I needed help to get it. Sure. Like I didn't have like he wasn't a code.
I thought you meant he was literally paying for it and then you said
he did pay for it. Like early initially on. Yeah. Right. The like
deposit
first 2 months rent, deposit, blah blah blah. Yeah. And the crazy part is So actually you're right. The first 6 months, because I was living with two of my best friends, Haley and Minji. And the first 6 months, he was like, I'll take care of the first 6 months of rent. And so none of us, my friends were like, damn, like this is the life. Like you got my friends were living with me for free too. So like none of us were paying rent for the first 6 months. And, obviously then I fumbled there.
Yeah. Okay. So based on what you just said, if we put Liv's 28 brain in Liv's 19-year-old brain, would you have like married this guy?
No.
You wouldn't have married this guy. Would you just continued the relationship?
Yeah. I mean, I'm just like someone that's never like, I've never looked forward to like having children or getting married. It's just not something that I want. Not to say that it's never going to happen, but it's not something I'm like planning on or really want, I'm just kind of like, I'm my own person. And it's kind of hard to find someone that like really accepts that too. A lot of men and women want to have like control over their partner or, like common ground. And I'm just like very much my own person that it's really hard to find someone that appreciates that and like respects it. Mm-hmm. So no, for sure no. But I would have continued the relationship at this age. I'm like, he was so nice. Like I was a total bitch. That was just, I fumbled.
Were you also into him, or was it just like, oh, he's kind of nice and like it's great lifestyle, this is cool?
I was into him, but I think I was maybe into him in like a friendship type of way.
You weren't like attracted, like that gut level attraction.
Yeah, no, I wasn't like, fangirling over him or whatever.
And do you think that was because he was like older and not as attractive, or just he was like too nice?
He wasn't too nice. He was very like nonchalant too, but it's like, what do they say? Like, it ain't tricking if you got it. He just like didn't give a fuck. Like he wasn't like, oh, I'm doing all this for this girl because I love her so much. He was just like, that's just like in his culture, So
kind of Andy style.
That is very Andy style. Yeah.
Who's Andy? Just kidding.
We have a
friend. No, yeah, he was cool, but wait, what was your question?
That if there was if you loved him.
Okay, so yeah, like I was definitely attracted to him. And I don't think like he was too nice or anything like that. I think it was just at the time I was like finally living it up with my friends after we all kind of like struggled with modeling for however long. And like, I think I was just so focused on my friends at the time that I didn't realize what was happening. And it's funny because he actually said to me, he was like, you like don't know what you have. If you were just a little bit older, you would know what you have. And now that I'm older, I'm like, damn, he was right. He made me eat those words for sure.
Yeah, it's interesting. I like think back, and I remember you were just kind of not fucking around in a like sexual way, but you were just like kind of like living life. No fucks given.
No fucks given. I would be in like, I would like wake up in Argentina and I'm like living there, and then I was like living in New York. I tried to live in New York twice actually, which just shows the kind of person I am. I was like, oh, I didn't like it the first time, so let me go try it a second time. But yeah, it was just a time in my life that was just very chaotic. And I think also like having the upbringing that I did and like growing up kind of having nothing, and I started to like inquire these things and these opportunities. I just like
you just wanted
dove
to
in. Yeah. So I was very much all over the place.
Have you ever been in love?
I want to say yes, but it's like, I don't even like how do you define love? I don't really know, because every time I think I've been in love, I like meet someone else and then I think that's love. And I'm like, I'm unsure of what love is, but I want to say yeah.
Okay.
Finally, someone who agrees with me.
Is that your stance?
Yeah.
Okay.
Every time I'm like my first girlfriend, I'm like, I'm in love. And then like the next girl's like, wait, this is the same feeling. And then the next girl's like, wait, is
Until
this
it's
love?
not.
Or is this just like some kind of like trauma bond, like chemical reaction in my brain?
I
you know
think
what I mean?
that too. I read about that a lot. I remember I had one really bad heartbreak in my life. And And that felt like love. But obviously now I know that wasn't. But it was like my first and only heartbreak. And I cheated on him. And I think that's why it was so bad, because he was such a nice, good guy. And I felt so bad. I was 18 and I just felt so bad. But he was like the first guy I dated when I moved to LA. And like, I don't know. I lived with him out here. It was the only person I've never lived with a male besides that. So, well, a male partner. And so, yeah, I was like really heartbroken. I was like gut wrenching heartbroken. My friend actually was recently going through a heartbreak. She's like, have you ever felt like this before? And I was like, yeah, when I was 18, but I've never felt like that since. Like, I just kind of just move on. Yeah. But I think that, you know, there is like someone that I think that being in love is someone that you date that changes your perception on either, you know, what love is or how you want to be treated, and someone that makes you feel, well, for women, for me personally, soft and comfortable. And I've only ever, you know, felt that with one person. So to me, I'm like, oh, this is love, or I'm in love. But then, you know, you date someone else and you're like, well, now I'm in love with this person. And then you date someone else and it's like, who knows, you know? I don't.
This is how I know love is not real.
Anytime
you ask somebody like who like got married, right? Like, oh, how did you know like this was the right person? How'd you know you're in love? Blah, blah, blah. They always give this like fake ass ChatGPT answer that's like, yeah, you know, the first time I looked into her eyes, I just knew. Or when you know, you know. And I'm just like, it sounds like you're lying. Like, it sounds like you know you're supposed to say this because it's like what people say. Haha, like this is the program we are supposed to run. I'm an NPC, you know? And then it's like, oh, well, that's love, I guess. But I think it's just liking somebody. And then there's like a spectrum. And if you just like someone more, I guess you could define love as like once across.
Have you ever been hungry?
Yeah.
Have you ever been hungry?
All the time.
Of course.
How do you describe hunger?
When you're really hungry. Like, what do you mean?
No, describe hunger. How would you describe hungry to somebody who's never been hungry?
Like when you feel super hungry.
When your stomach's growling.
You're just using the word to describe
like
the word.
When you really want food.
You can't describe how the hunger feels like?
That's how it feels when you really want food.
Uh-huh. How do you define
like my
hunger?
Stomach's growling. I'm a little shaky. Can't stop thinking about what I want to eat. Feeling like I need to get food.
Okay. Do you agree with that definition?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So you both agree on the definition. So when you say that anybody who's been in love you talk to and describes it the same way, you think that they're supposed to say the same thing. But what if they're saying the same thing because it is the explanation of the same thing?
Because you can tell by how they say it.
Which is what?
They say it in a robot voice. They say it in like a fake, like it's like their eyes go dead, their eyes go blank, and it's like, this is the program I'm supposed to run now, and then they just like say the words.
Or is it possible that because you're a robot, you're hearing it in a robot voice as a result of the fact that you have robot ears?
Like, I think love exists in this, like, okay, if you said what is hungry, and then you said what is starving. Oh, starving is like when you're more hungry. Okay, I guess starving exists like on the same, but people act like love is like a completely separate thing from like. When I think it's just like a lot.
It is. It is a separate thing from like, because you could love someone and dislike them at the same time. There are things that I could dislike about a person, but I love that person at the same time.
But if they did enough things that you didn't like, you would stop loving them.
That's assuming that your love is conditional. If all the love is conditional, that is not true. And we've talked about this before, and I don't know why you can't understand it. Well, I know why you can't understand it. It's because you've never experienced it.
You don't have the brain of a small child. What do you mean?
No, the problem is you
watch too many Disney movies.
You don't. No, it has nothing to do with watching Disney movies. It's because I've experienced it. Therefore, I understand it. I understand that it's hard to understand it if you've never experienced it.
So you've experienced unconditional love.
Absolutely.
So there is people in this world that you would love. If they murdered your mom, you would still love them. If they fucking like destroyed everything else you love in life, you would still be like, yeah, oh my God, I'm in love with you.
I don't think you would be capable of not loving them, but you could dislike them as a result of what they did.
There's no way.
I guess we'll never find out because they're never going to kill my mom.
Well, I know,
I think
but
there
I'm saying,
is like love, but I think there's a different perception of it these days. You know, they're like, a lot of my friends are in relationships that they don't really love the guy, but he takes care of them or whatever. But then I do have friends that are like, this guy completely changed my perception of love. And I felt that too. I've had someone that, you know, after my whole gay ex experience, I had someone come into my life that completely healed me and like changed me as a person. And it's not to say like, you know, I think your perception does always change. It just does, you know, and I think that love exists, but I think that it's very rare. It's very rare. It's very hard to find. And I think it's something that is individualized, you know? I don't think like we would all have the same concept of love. Like maybe he will like 2, 3, 4, 5 years from now be like, oh, this is that one person that like can change my perception.
I compare being in love and finding somebody who you're truly in love with to winning the lottery. And I think the rarity of it is the same. Mm-hmm. And not only the rarity of it is the same, but also the fact that not everybody tries to buy the lottery ticket to begin with. And I think that itself is a big factor of why a lot of people don't experience love and don't actually fall in love. Because when you find something that's safe, majority of people tend to settle, which is absolutely fine, because relationship is not just about love. You know, that's not the only factor that makes a relationship last. You know, relationship is a lot of work. And so in order to be in a successful relationship doesn't mean that you have to be in love with the person in order to make the relationship work. It just means that you have to really make sure that you and your partner are willing to do the work in order to make the relationship work.
I totally agree. And I think that a lot of people aren't willing to put the work into themselves that it takes to find someone like that. Because I think that you can only find someone or something like that when you've actively worked on yourself and when you continue to grow. Because when you become stagnant as a person, you're going to become stagnant in your relationship, and it's going to be very hard to progress from that point. That's why a lot of people like gain weight in relationships, or, you know, stay at the same shitty job for 10 years while in a relationship. It's like people want stability, but they don't realize that stability holds you back in life. Comfort and stability are your biggest enemies. And when you can put that work into yourself, I think the universe kind of gives back and gives you someone that makes you realize that working on yourself is worth it.
Mm-hmm. You said something about the fact that when you were 18, you cheated on someone, on your ex at the time. Do you think that once a cheater, always a cheater?
No, I never did that shit again. It was so bad. It was so bad. I felt so bad. And I also, like, at the time when he caught me, I lied about it. It was just something that I never really got over, how I made that person feel. And he cut me off cold turkey. He was like, he forgave me at first, and then we got into like another disagreement, and he just like blocked me on everything. And at the time I was living with him, but I was modeling in New York, and he sold all my stuff to Buffalo Exchange with another girl and posted it on Instagram. Like, took a picture on Instagram with another girl that I didn't like in the picture, and was like, Buffalo Exchange is really gonna love my ex's shit. And so I don't know. I think he forgave me, and then he like realized how much it was gonna take for him to actually trust me again. So he just kind of like, I don't blame him.
Or did he fake forgive you, wait for you to leave? Then what,
I was already
like,
gone.
Oh, okay.
I was already in New York, and he like logged into my Facebook and read my messages with my like high school ex. And what had happened was, I had a relationship from like 5th grade to like the time I moved away. I dated like, you know, one guy there in where I was from, and I kind of left still dating him. And then when I got to LA and I saw how great things were here, I was like, yeah, this is like not working for me anymore. You know, because he was like a hometown guy. He's like never gonna leave or do anything with his life, you know. So anyway, I broke up with him as soon as I met this other guy that I cheated on. I broke up with him when I met that guy because I did have that like childlike love feeling with this guy, you know, and he was like the first guy I met in LA, and he was like whatever. So I ended up visiting back home like a year into the relationship, and my ex from high school was around because he's like very close to my family, etc. And the guy I was dating was at like a guest fashion show. He's walking for guests, and I remember seeing he like told me he was like going home, and he didn't go home, and he like lied about like one of the girls. I don't know, it was something, it was like pretty like small, and like me now that I wouldn't even like, you know, I just brush it. But at the time when you're like so in love and you're young, I'm just like, oh my God, like he's gonna meet another model and he's gonna like her better and whatever. So I ended up hooking up with my high school ex to like get revenge or whatever. And I honestly felt really bad about it. Like I really did. To the point where I almost told him. And then when I was going to tell him, I was saying like, oh, we need to have a talk or whatever. And I guess he thought I was going to break up with him. So he flew to my hometown and surprised me because he knew I had been feeling weird about what happened at the fashion show. Flew to my hometown and surprised me. And we like go on this like elaborate trip with his mom. And this whole time I'm thinking like, oh my God, fuck, I like cheated on him. I feel so fucking bad. Like, cause I'm a person that like, I genuinely like feel bad. Yeah. Like if I do something wrong to someone, I feel remorseful. Like I can't stop thinking about it. So yeah, we're like on this trip and I feel awful. And then I end up going to New York. He goes back to LA. I'm in New York and it's like super busy in New York. I'm like, my modeling career is like completely taking off. And I think he felt like a little like jealous of that too, because he was a model too and his career like wasn't going as good as mine or whatever. So we would like argue about that a little bit, about like me having to travel so much. And I think that's why he felt the need to break into my Facebook. I don't even know how he knew my password. I genuinely don't know how he got in to this day. But he got into my Facebook and he started messaging the guy pretending to be me, my high school ex. And I'm like, so that's probably where I learned it from actually. But he's like messaging him and he's like, because I had sent a message that was like, hey, stop messaging me. I'm with my boyfriend. And he's like, hey, what were you going to tell me like when I was with my boyfriend? And then he starts like pouring out his heart like, oh, when you came back here and we hooked up and blah, blah, blah. And then like that, you know, he knew and he confronted me with it and I lied and lied and lied and lied. And I was like, he's just saying that. And to make it worse, the hometown guy was like giving him all the details. He called him and he was like, yeah, we were at her mom's house and blah, 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 like giving him all the details, the time frames, the screenshots of text messages. He was like totally like ratting me out because he wanted me back. And I'm like, fuck, I have two guys that like both really want to be with me and I'm like probably going to end up with neither one of them. Right. And so, yeah, he's like, we fight over it. We argue. He ends up coming to New York like during all this. And he's like, I forgive you. And we're like in love again and blah, blah, blah. And then he leaves New York. And then I think he just realized like how hard it actually was going to be for him to trust me again because I'm a model. I'm traveling everywhere. And like, he knows I've already had this behavior before. So why wouldn't I have it again? And I don't blame him. And so, yeah, we got into like one little argument and he completely ghosted me and I was so depressed. I was like taking sleeping pills just to go to sleep at night because I felt so bad and so depressed. And then also all my stuff got given away. So yeah, I just ended up like stopping modeling for like, I think like 3 or 4 months and like went home. I had like a huge mental health episode where I was just like unwell and super depressed. And that wasn't really like fully because of him. It was also like stuff from my childhood that I was trying to process and get over because I had this new life, you know? So, but it was a big stepping stone for me, like that relationship and learning like why deceiving someone is wrong and how it affects the other person. And since then I've definitely been caught up. I have actually another story that's really crazy, remind me, but I've been caught up and I just flat out told the truth. And they're just like, people like, are shocked. They're just like, oh, just like that? Like, that's like, you know? And I'm like, yeah, like I fucked up, you know? Or yeah, like I did that.
So then that kind of gives you the feeling that once a cheater is not a cheater because you don't think you would ever make that mistake because that mistake only pertained to the you at that age.
Yeah. I mean, obviously it depends on the person, you know, like some people are once a cheater, always going to be a cheater because they're not willing to put the work into themselves to not, grow. You know, not do that again. But I knew, like, I don't ever want to make someone feel like that again. You know, especially someone who's done nothing to me. Now, if it's like the guy's cheating on you and you're cheating back or whatever, like, I think there's like a fine line, you know, but I think that if you're just like deceiving someone who's like completely in love with you, which is like what I was doing, like, it's like he did one small thing that what he was like micro cheating and then I cheated, you know, as revenge. And it's like, to this day, I probably still, even if someone's like micro cheating, I wouldn't do that back because it does nothing for me, you know, like if I'm going to do that, why don't I just pick up and move on?
Right. So to that, what do you consider cheating?
I guess it depends on the boundaries of the relationship, but you know, obviously being intimate with someone else, right? The opposite.
So is that where the line is like, because you said micro cheating. So what is?
So micro cheating would be like texting someone private, like having emotional conversations, you know.
So is flirting micro cheating?
Yeah, okay. I would say it is because I know when men flirt with me what they want, you know? So it's like, if you're my boyfriend and you're flirting with someone else, other men are doing that to me. It's a cycle, you know?
Okay. So your line essentially is no interest. Like if you have interest in somebody, you're allowed to think about it, but you can't act on it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Have self-control. It's pretty simple.
Sure. You said you had a crazy story that you remembered.
Oh, okay. This one's pretty bad. So after the whole gay ex thing, I was single first and foremost, but I was talking to a bunch of different people, and
you had a roster.
Yeah, I had a roster, sure. But also, by the way, I wasn't hooking up with any of these people, but I was like actively dating all of them. And when I say dating, I mean like multiple dates. So I'm on a first date with this guy, and he lives in New York, and he's like, oh, I'm coming to LA, and it was when like NFTs were a thing. And he's like, oh, I'm going to this NFT event. Like, will you be my date? And I'm like, sure, that sounds like fun. We go to the event. One of the guys I'm talking to that lives here in LA pulls up, and I see him, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm on a date with this other guy. Like, fuck.
You're like, fuck.
I take off to the bathroom. And the guy I'm on a date with is like, are you okay? Like, and I won't come out of the bathroom. I'm like, yeah, like by chance, like who's in line for the bathroom, or like who's around the bathroom door? And he's like, what? Like, why are you being so weird? And then finally I come out of the bathroom. I'm like, honestly, we should get out of here. And he's like, okay. So we left, and we go to dinner at Bossa Nova because it's late at night after this event. We go to dinner at Bossa Nova. And the bad part is, okay, hold on. I'm trying to think of how to tell this story in the best way. Okay, so we go to dinner at Bossa Nova. We're standing outside. He has his arm around me. It's cold. Like, we're like cuddled up, you know? And I had introduced him to the guy that I'm on a date with. I had introduced him previously to another guy I was talking to, because the other guy I was talking to was in New York, and he was looking to do business with someone, and that guy happened to be a perfect fit. So I introduced them to do business together. So they know each other. I'm cuddled up with this guy on the first date next to the heater, and the other guy calls me, and I answer it because I'm like, I don't know, like I don't really have anything to hide, and also it could have like been an emergency. He called me a few times. So I pick up, I'm like, hey, what's up? He's like, turn around.
Oh my God.
Mind you, we already saw the other guy I'm talking to at the party. He didn't say anything to us, but we already saw him. And like, I had to come clean. He was like, why did you want to get out of there? Blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I was talking to one of those guys that was at the party. And he was like, the one with the face tats? I was like, yeah, unfortunately. And so he already knows that. And that's like a huge red flag. He should have never taken me to dinner, to be honest. We're there cuddled up at dinner, and this guy's like, turn around. And I'm like, haha, like, what do you mean? And he's like, turn around. I turn around. I push his arm off me. I turn around and I see the other guy and I'm like, what are you doing here? Like, I hang up the phone. I'm like, oh, you remember so-and-so? And he's like beside himself. By the way, this guy that pulled up, he was in the car and he just happened to be passing by. Dude, this is like, my karma's the fucking worst. He just happened to be driving by and his friend had to pee. So they pulled over. They weren't even going to Bossa Nova. They pulled over at Bossa Nova for his friend to use the bathroom. And I was outside with another guy. I had just cut things off with this guy 2 days before. And I was like, we can still be friends and like date, but I just don't want a relationship with you. So he was already like feeling that. And then he sees me with this other guy that he knows that I introduced him to, cuddled up like outside. And then he like completely breaks down. He's like asking the guy, he's like, are you hooking up with her? Or like, he keeps asking me and he's like yelling it out the car. And like the security at Bossa Nova is like trying to make him leave. And he's like, answer my question. Like, and then he's like, are you guys on a date? And the other guy was like shocked. He was like, no. And he was like, looks like you're on a date. He's like, I guess. And then he's like, we're both just like so caught off guard. Now I tried to play it off. I was like, oh yeah, you guys remember each other, right? But it's like too late. He already saw us like cuddled up next to the heater. So yeah, he's like crying in the passenger seat of his friend's car while his other friend is using the bathroom inside. And security's trying to make him leave. And he's just like, I had to block him. He starts like messaging us both and like just talking shit. And I was like, dude, I honestly broke things off with you already. I told you I wasn't interested in a relationship with you. The guy I was on the first date with, it was like, we just sat down. It's the most awkward meal ever. Like, I'm like eating bean soup because I couldn't even order a full meal because I was so like... I was just like, oh my gosh, this is so embarrassing. And he like ignored all those red flags. So I don't know.
And he didn't talk. You guys didn't talk about it. Didn't like you didn't sit there like he was like, what the fuck was that?
He was so
explain yourself.
He was so gentle about it. He was just like, well, like, are you gonna say anything? And I'm like, yeah. So like, you know, he's like, why'd you introduce me to him? And I'm like, well, I thought we were all friends. Like, I don't know. Like, I guess I didn't realize how much either one of them liked me. And so I was just like, I didn't really think it mattered. But now, obviously, if someone did that to me, I'd be fucking pissed, you know? So this is another one of those things where it's like, I don't want to make someone feel like that again. Yeah. It's like a learning lesson of like how you want to treat other people. But yeah, at the dinner, we just kind of both sat there. He was pretty silent too. He was like sweating. He was literally like, dude, he was probably like, this fucking girl. Yeah, I remember even when the bill came, I tried to pay the bill because I felt so bad. And it was our first date and he didn't let me pay the bill. But I was like, no, like, honestly, I'm so sorry. Like, I know you probably don't want to date me after this. Like, I'm just going to pay the bill. And he's like, no, you're fine. And it just like, that was pretty bad. I got caught up with 3 different guys on the same night on a first date.
That's hilarious. You said that you don't do a lot of one night stands.
I don't really do them at all. Yeah.
So, you know, I'm going to assume the answer to this question, but does size matter?
I mean, for me, like personally, like if I like someone, I like them. Like I really don't give a fuck. But I think, yeah, you know, I think if that's like your standard, yeah. But for me personally, if I like someone, I like everything about them and I can make anything work. So yes and no. I don't know. I have some girlfriends that are like, I would never date a dude with a small blah, 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 you know? And I'm like, I don't really care. If I like really like the person, like that's not really going to stop me.
That's good. Good for you.
What were you going to assume?
What you just said.
Okay.
Yeah. I would have assumed that like it's, you know, you care more so about the emotional connection with the person than you do.
Yeah, exactly. Because
you're not, like you mentioned earlier, not a very like overly sexual person.
Yeah. And like maybe I am in my own way, but I'm like if I
feel like you're a lot more sexual with the women in your life.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, probably. I mean, like publicly for sure.
Right.
But I just think that relationships are such a deep thing. And it's like for me to like get into a relationship and like be so deep in a relationship, I need to feel something for that person, you know, whether it's sexual or not sexual. Like I would say like, yeah, I'm a pretty sexual person with the right person, if that makes sense.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. thank you for coming on the show. You were great.
Yeah.
This was very honest and enlightening.
Of course. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for watching. See you later.